Guys, Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends with another champion guide. This one is going to be Infernal Baroness. Infernal Baroness is a champion that actually carried my account quite a bit, especially in the early days. I didn't have Duchess and some of the other OP Demon Spawn champions. Demon Spawn, arguably the strongest faction in the game. But again, I didn't have all those champions. I had to rely on Infernal Baroness and Tanix Hate Flower champions like that to complete faction wars and get my hands on Lydia. But she has more utility than just that. Today we're going to discuss why. We're also going to share the lore on this champion. Before we do that, I'm going to start doing this on every champion now because I find it interesting, and a lot of you guys have given me positive feedback as well. It's crazy, but I started playing in August of 2019. So I started playing right when she was released into the game. Honestly, I thought she was a legacy champion. I remember the Halloween champions of 2019, Madame Sarah's Miscreated Monster, Brackus the Shifter, but I do not remember in Harvest Jack 2. I'm like, who am I forgetting in the Halloween? But I don't remember her being, I thought she was a legacy champion in the game. But here we go, guys. 10 new champions back on August 23rd of 2019. We have Vizier, we have Yannicka, Candyman, who sucked back then. He was awful. Mistress of Hymns, that he got a big buff a year or two later. Seneschal, Corpse Collector, Infernal Baroness, Necro Hunter, Hill Nomad, and Steadfast Marshal. Man, Vizier was a beast, especially back in the day. He still is in the right team. But man, what a crappy group of champions for the most part. Candyman, as I said, is good now, but back then he wasn't that great. He sucked. So yeah, anyway, one of the good notes here was Infernal Baroness. If we look at her multipliers on the A1, it's a 2.5 defense, and on the A2, it's a 4.5 defensive multiplier, which is actually pretty solid because it's an AoE attack on the A1 and an AoE attack on the A2. You get a small heal on the ally with lowest HP based on damage inflicted on the A1. On the A2, 3-turn cooldown when booked. Pause just a moment there on the books. The cool thing about this champion, guys, is you really don't have to book her unless you're just dying to use your epic skill tomes. Maybe you're using them for clan versus clan or something like that, or a tournament. But, you know, Clinging Dark, it's a 75% decrease attack on a 3-turn cooldown when booked, which is valuable, 80% with Sniper. But again, if you're only using her for, say, faction wars or a little bit of Doom Tower wave clearing as a control champion, which is going to be the build that I show you guys today, I don't think you need to book this champion at all. On the A3, half the time, I just turn it off. I don't even use it. It disappear. Perfect Veil on an ally for 3 turns. That can have utility in some situations. You can kind of protect your nuker if they're super squishy. It has some utility, but again, I love putting her in a stun set in a control build for the AoE on the A1, the AoE on the A2, and again, she's a defensive base, so she's super easy to keep alive, okay? Let me go ahead and show you the build. Pretty basic one today. Honestly, this is one of the easier guides that we've had on the channel recently here in Infernal Baroness. So where are you? But don't let that fool you. Again, I think she's a really solid champion, a solid progression champion, right? Where the heck is it? I thought I just used her. Where is she, man? You ever think you use a champion? Oh, there, she's right in front of my face, man. Come on. Infernal Baroness, Demon Spawn, obviously Force Affinity. I have her in a stun set, guys. I wanted my cake and I wanted to eat it too. I got 109 on the crit rate and the crit damage, 142. We have 253, so we're landing that decreased accuracy. So when I say I want my cake and I want to eat it too, I basically mean that I want to get a little bit of damage out of this champion. She does have 2 AoEs after all, so I am trying to build their crit rate to 100%. Rather than just going all out defense with defense percentage on my gauntlet, I put defense percentage on my chest, and then I put crit rate on the gauntlets on this champion to get a little bit of damage with crit damage on the amulet as well. Of course, if she's dying wherever you're using her, just go defense percentage on the gauntlets and on the chest, or even HP percentage is absolutely fine as well. So we have 38k, 4400, 206, 109, 142, 253. Again, stat priorities on this champion are really going to be speed, accuracy if we want to land the decrease attack, and then after that, maybe some survivability, some HP. I would say if I had to critique this build, maybe a little low on the HP. What do we have on the ring here? We have defense with a, wow. Man, I can't believe I used, you ever do this, guys? I can't believe I used a 5-star glyph on this rare artifact here. I mean, 20% isn't bad, and I got the max roll, so it's actually really solid. But the crazy thing is, guys, I'm going to replace it. I don't like having that little defense on a super tanky, or HP on a super tanky champion. I actually like this ratio a lot better. 4,000, it's not going to make a massive difference on her survivability, bringing it from 4,400 to 4,000, whatever it was. And I really like 45k on the HP a lot better than I do 38k. So that one little switch on the ring, and you guys can see the ring stat, the new ring stats here. We can even glyph it out and get some more. Man, this is a nice mythical accessory. A 1? I got a 1? Oh, come on, man. That's more like it. Give me the 4. Let's see what we get here. I'm tempted to go with the 5-star, with the 6-star here. I said 5-star earlier. I meant 6-star. I'm tempted to go with another one, but nah, man. I'm not. I'm going to save it for when I really need it, right? Of course, I got another 1, dude. Are you serious? Anyway, guys, with that roll, now we have 46k HP, so I'm really, really happy with that, and over 4,000 on the defense. We do have crit damage, as I mentioned, on the amulet, and then we have accuracy on the banner. Again, I'd like to land that decrease attack on the A2. Help with some damage mitigation, a little bit of heals, a little bit of veil, if perfect veil if we need it, and a lot of stuns, right? So we have speed on the boots. We have defense percentage and crit rate, as I mentioned earlier, on the chest and the gauntlets. And then we're looking for speed substats. We want her as fast as possible with as much defense as we can muster here. So again, looking for some speed, some accuracy, some defense for the substats. Let's go ahead, and I don't have her awakened at all here, but if I did, I think she's actually a really good candidate to go with a commanding presence. Strengthen your team's aura. If you really want to have her protected, try to prevent her from being CC'd, I think Dark Resolve is a viable option on this champion as well. If you want a little bit of damage, extra damage out of this champion, I mean, I guess you could go for Cruelty, especially if you're lucky enough to get like a crazy, 3, 4, 5, 6-star blessing on this champion. But those would be my choices. Again, Dark Resolve, or a good option for commanding presence if you don't already have an aura strengthener on your team. Those would be my go-tos, excuse me. On Masteries, I have her in, as I mentioned, a super, super effective control build. What do we want to note here? We went down the accuracy on the right-hand side. Nothing really to write home about here, except for the sniper to get that decreased attack up to an 80% chance on the A2. On the defense side of things, man, I love this defense tree for this champion, especially in a stun set. Obviously, we went with some extra defense, some damage mitigation on AoE attacks. We went with Resurgent, a chance at removing a buff when we lose a certain amount of HP. Shadow Heal heals this champion by 6% of their max HP each time an enemy is healed. Really good mastery there. And then we went Delay Death, and of course we want to get, I guess the 4 most important masteries on this champion here are going to be Harvest of Spare. Now she's going to be placing the Leech every time she places the stun vis-a-vis the stun set. Keep in mind that does not require accuracy. Again, I repeat, the stuns from the stun set doesn't require accuracy, which is really, really nice as well. But we have a chance at placing that Leech, ergo more heals from this champion. You got to love it, right? So Leech is obviously healing by 18% of the damage dealt on all of our allies. And then we have Retribution and Deterrence. Why are these so important? Because counterattacks are another chance to stun off that A1, and it's an AoE. So 2 chances at counterattacking. Awesome. And then Fearsome Presence increases the chance of landing that stun from an 18 to a 23% off that stun set. So really, really strong build here. Again, oftentimes I'll just shut off the A3 unless I really need to protect somebody on my squad. Guys, before we jump into Faction Wars, which I actually have up right now for Demon Spawn, I'll show you the team, and then I want to read the lore on this champion. It's quick, but this is the squad, and this is crazy enough. I don't know how crazy it is, but whatever. This is the team that I actually originally accomplished Stage 21 Faction Wars with. It was right after Magnar was introduced to the game, and that was it for me, just getting a really nice DPS option to go with these other 4 champions, Rexstar Blood Twin, Diabolus, Infernal Baroness, and Allure. Let's go ahead and cover the lore. Infernal Baroness. Here she is. For all their vile nature and often bestial ferocity in battle, demon spawn legions are far from being an uncontrollable horde. Indeed, Their discipline and organization are among the prime reasons why the servants of Surath are so dangerous. Their twisted commanders bear many of the same titles of nobility that the lords of Teleria are used to, and often direct their lesser kin with guile and ruthless intent. The Infernal Baroness prefers to let her minions, and of course a majestic being like her can only have minions, not allies, to do most of the fighting while she directs them. One should not mistake that for inability to fight, however. This demoness is more than capable of dispatching a foe in person, should the need arise, and she does strike out frequently, allowing those at her side to be strengthened by the blood she spills, aka the heal on the A1, while her foes wither and turn frail. She is even capable of bending the shadows to her will and wrapping them around her chosen companion, aka the Veil on the A3, letting them move and make the battle unseen. There we go. It's so she is a Infernal Baroness. She leads a bunch of minions for the Demon Spawn faction for Surath. All right, guys, just to show you before we go in here, I do have Disappear turned off on the team setup on Infernal Baroness for every single round. She's going to put it on Drexstar Blood Twin, which is just unnecessary. So we turned it off. We're just going to go all out stun. We have Allure on the third wave, not using her A2 or her A3. We just want control with that Psychic Whip A1. Other than that, everything is just as is on this team. So I remember just how instrumental she was against, especially the second wave is so challenging if you don't have all these OP legendaries, it's so challenging on this level. I even remember having to just A1 cycle towards the end of this first wave here. Maybe I'll do it today. I'm not sure. I didn't pre-run. Actually, I did pre-run this team and they did fine. So maybe I don't have to. But anyway, so this champion, I want to try to give you an honest take, of course, on all the champions that we do guides here on the channel. I think she is a wave specialist and a faction war specialist. You could use her in Doom Tower waves, especially when things get challenging as a defensive tanky champion. You get a little bit of mitigation on the decreased attack. You get a little bit of protection on your squishier champions on that A3, a tiny heal on the A1. But other than that, there's no area that I've identified, at least, where this champion really shines. So if I could do things over, I probably wouldn't book her out. I'd still build her in a stun set. The build would be the same. And I would just rely on that. I mean, look at this second wave, guys. It's really hard, but we're basically controlling those Valkyries. I remember how difficult this was for me. And man, back then, it just seems so much harder, but we're actually bleeding through it just fine here, right? And I guess it's RNG based as well. And that's something that's worth saying with every stun champion and anytime you're going to utilize a build like this, you're going to have a little bit of RNG, right? We could have easily landed no stuns here and these Valkyries would have absolutely wiped out the entire team. You'll notice, as I mentioned earlier, she has the lowest HP compared to Drexstar. So going against Spirit Affinity, it's either her or now Allure's taking the aggro there. But in the beginning, at least, she was getting aggro on most of those Valkyries. So actually, that was a counterattack, not an actual attack, I believe, on that first one there. Either way, she's tanky enough to stay alive. Which is really, really nice. So here we go. 3 Valkyries left. Really annoying. Okay. And 1 Valkyrie left. Yeah, buddy. There goes that last Valkyrie taking her last turn, taking a last little poke there at Infernal Baroness. No, Valkyrie. So again, I don't know about you guys. You let me know what you found, Faction Wars, what you found the most challenging, or which you do still find the most challenging. Again, for me, it was Dwarves is the last one that I did, but I remember the 3 that I did last, right, that I had the most challenge with. And again, it's super dependent on the champions that you have to. Notice the decreased attack on the red boss, super helpful, right? But the third to last Faction War that I did was Knights Revenant. I found that very difficult. Again, back in the day, before the blessings and OP champions and, area bonuses or whatever. Actually, area bonus is not going to really help you out here, but you get what I'm saying. Before I had my great haul all maxed out and stuff. And then it was Demon Spawn. And then dwarves, man, I really had to work at it for dwarves. I've said this before in the past, and I need to do a guide on this dude because he's the guy who really got me Lydia, right? Because he took me past that last hurdle in Dwarf Faction Wars. But Rockbreaker, I built Rockbreaker only for Faction Wars, and he was the dude who ended up getting me through that content and unlocking Miss Lydia. So now that we actually get to the red boss here, I find the second wave to be super challenging, but the red boss himself here, I find him, you know, he's you can handle him. You can see, especially with Allure on the team, she's key when we actually get to the boss here, right? Because she's going to be the one controlling that turn meter, only using that A1, and you can see, man, I mean, nice and easy. When the boss never gets a turn, barely, it's a lot easier there. So even with the freezes and the true fears, this version of the red boss has a provoke on the A1, has a true fear on the A2, and then has a freeze every time every time it's hit with it can't be resisted. So a lot of control on this red boss, but again, you can bring that control right back at the red boss there, and Magnar is an absolute monster when it comes to damage. And even Drexstar, right? He can put those he doesn't need to take a turn, right? Even if he's CC'd, he can still have a chance of putting those HP burns on the red boss there. So Drexstar comes away with 750,000, million damage. Would be pretty out of control. And then we have Magnar with a mil. Infernal Baroness, not too bad. 414 in terms of damage, but a lot of control along with Diabolus, who brought the increased speed to this team as well, as some control in her own right. She has the same stun set with Fearsome Presence, the same kind of mastery combo, and I didn't even kind of point them out, but all the leeches that both of those champions brought as well, just making sure that everybody is healed throughout the duration of the battle, especially against that final red boss. Of course, those leeches can still apply to the guards, even though the red boss can't be stunned. And Allure is bringing the control. So guys, there we have it. There it is. That is Infernal Baroness. Infernal Baroness, really good control champion who you do not have to book, but I wouldn't utilize her. I would not invest in her hoping for something, you know, a ton more than that. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care, guys.